Indeed, Dan heard there. Now, tomorrow, a national day of reflection will mark 5 years since the start of the COVID pandemic. Here in Wales, 12,300 people died with COVID-19. More than 43,000 people were admitted to hospital. The UK government says the day of reflection will be an opportunity for bereaved family and friends to remember their loved ones. Let's talk to Yanto Evans. He is a trustee of the charity Long COVID Support and lives with long COVID himself. Yanto, good morning.
Morning, Claire.
How are you going to mark tomorrow's day of reflection?
Well, my intention will be to head along to the COVID Memorial in Innisty. At the end of the day, that over 12,000 people sadly lost their lives down to COVID. Yeah, and it's only right that we should pay our respects to them in the first place.
You live with long COVID. How has life changed for you as a result of that?
Quite frankly, it's turned my life upside down. Previously I was very fit and active. I had a good career. All that's changed. I can't. I can't. I used to do triathlons, which I can't do anymore, and I've recently lost my job, which I put largely down to my long COVID. And this is something that's been reflected, with other people as well, across the country and indeed across the world.
What kind of support are you getting?
There is something in the way of support, particularly from the NHS. It revolves around the likes of psychology and occupational health and physiotherapy. And unfortunately, although that's part of the solution, it's not the total solution. And what we really need in order to help rehabilitate us.
You have long COVID, so have a lot of other people here in Wales. We know that during the pandemic, Wales was disproportionately affected. The numbers, the percentage of people who were suffering was huge. Tell us about some of the people that you have come into contact with through the charity and their experiences.
Yeah, so with the charity, we actually started off as a support group on Facebook, believe it or not. But we have now grown, that group has now grown into over 67,000 members worldwide. That includes in Wales as well. I liaise a lot with a lot of people in Wales, with long COVID whose lives have been devastated. They can't work, sometimes they can't fulfill basic day-to-day activities. Their lives have been upended, and there's very little in the way of help and support, and this is something that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later.
What kind of support and help would make a difference to you and the other people who are living with long COVID? What practical, emotional, financial things? If the Welsh Government, if the UK government was listening right now, what would you say that you want to make your life easier day to day?
Yeah, so there's a number of things that we're calling for from the government. In the first instance, we don't know how many people have long COVID in the country right now. Estimates suggest it's about 150,000 in Wales. Just the act of doing that and understanding how many people in Wales have long COVID, so that we understand the scale of the issue, and then we can take action about it. We're very aware that long COVID isn't classed as an occupational disease here in the UK, whereas it is in Europe. So at the moment, you could get long COVID in the workplace, but then you have no recourse against your employers. So there's even things around prevention. There's very little in the way of mitigations, especially in hospitals and in schools. Things like air filtration, FFP3 masks. There's probably a lot more that could be done in terms of support with those living with long COVID right now. There's a number of in-person support groups that are popping up in the community. There's one here in Pontypool, which is we're getting new members every time we meet. There's a lot that needs to be done.
That figure of 150,000 that you mentioned, that you think is the figure for people living with long COVID in Wales, that's a huge number of people. And you want an official count, if you like, a recognition of those people. Are you hopeful that the kind of support that you want, are you hopeful that you will get that?
Well, as a charity, we are working hard to get that support. I mean, long COVID is still an issue. It's COVID hasn't gone anywhere. We're seeing this steady rise. Since early 2020 in the numbers of long-term sick. So there will be a tipping point. We would imagine at some point. We're just trying to raise this with the government to take action sooner rather than later to prevent this the disablement of people in here in Wales and further afield that is having such an impact on our healthcare systems, our schools, and the economy.
Yanto, how do you see your future panning out? I mean, you said to me, you took part in triathlon, so you were biking, you were swimming, you were running. Yeah. You're not working. What does the future look like for you and other people with long COVID?
It's a very good question. It's a very uncertain future, to be honest. We're 5 years in. There's still no approved tests or treatments, and for me, I've never had a prognosis in terms of what my recovery will be. I've been fortunate that I've been able to improve somewhat, but I'm still not 100%. But I know of some people who are as ill or worse than what they were 5 years ago.
Very, very difficult. Very, very difficult indeed. Yanto, thank you for taking the time to share your experiences with us here on BBC Radio Wales. That's Yanto Evans, trustee of the charity Long COVID Support. And Yanto, as you heard, is living with long COVID. The time is coming up to 21 minutes past 8.